The universe is vast, a swirling sea of stars, planets, and dust. And within this great expanse, there existed an eternal phenomenon, the star children. These weren't children in the traditional sense. No, they were the products of cosmic forces, so powerful and ancient that they transcended the concepts of life and death. They were the creation of stardust, the fragments of dying stars, drifting across the vacuum of space and carrying with them the elements necessary for life: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and all the building blocks of existence. Every second, as these particles rained down upon countless planets in every corner of the galaxy, they brought with them the potential for new life. However, the universe was a cruel and indifferent place, and not every planet was destined to be the cradle for such life. Many worlds, those unlucky enough to lack the protection of a magnetic field, would face total destruction as these cosmic showers tore at their atmospheres, leaving nothing but desolation. Yet, there were planets like Earth, planets with magnetic cores that generated strong magnetic fields capable of shielding their atmospheres from the destructive bombardment of stardust. These planets became the incubators for life, where the stardust particles fell gently to the surface, mixing with the elements and triggering the chemical reactions that would eventually lead to the formation of life. It was on such planets that the star children were born, life that rose from the ashes of cosmic chaos. Captain Cale Varn, a seasoned explorer, had dedicated his life to studying the birth of life across the stars. Driven by an unyielding curiosity about how stardust, the remnants of dead stars, could foster the evolution of life, he journeyed across the galaxy aboard his ship, the Astronexus. His mission was clear: seek out planets that had been bombarded by stardust, investigate their potential for life, and uncover the mysteries behind their formation. He knew well the delicate balance of creation and destruction that governed these worlds, and he knew that not every planet would emerge with life. Some would simply fall to the unrelenting bombardment, never to recover. The Astronexus came to a stop in orbit around Talaris, a desolate world in the Valoris system. From space, the planet looked abandoned, its surface dry, cracked, and barren. The absence of a strong magnetic field made it vulnerable to the destructive forces of stardust. Without a protective magnetic shield, it should have been lost to the ages, its atmosphere long since eroded. Yet, strange readings from the planet's surface suggested otherwise. Something was stirring. "There's no magnetic field here," Cale murmured as he studied the readings on his console. "The stardust bombardment should have destroyed this planet centuries ago, but there's something odd. A faint, pulsing signal. Almost like it's alive." Dr. Kalen, the ship's exobiologist, joined Cale at the console. Could it be some form of dormant life? Or perhaps an anomaly in the atmosphere? "I'm not sure, but we're going down to investigate." Cale made the decision quickly. He gathered his team, and together they suited up, preparing to descend to the surface. As the shuttle descended, the crew could see that the surface of Talaris was nothing like they had expected. Despite the apparent desolation, there were faint signs of energy, a subtle glow in the distant mountains, like an ember refusing to die. The bombardment from the stardust continued in full force, yet there was an unnatural stillness to the planet, as if the forces of creation and destruction had somehow paused, waiting for something to trigger their inevitable clash. Once on the surface, Cale stepped out onto the rocky, scorched land. The atmosphere was thin and fragile, barely holding on, but still, there was something in the air. Something Cale couldn't quite place. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath. "This place feels strange," Lieutenant Era, the ship's geologist, said, her voice filled with awe. "Like it's waiting for something." "Let's find out what," Cale replied, leading the way toward the source of the pulsating energy. They reached the region where the energy readings were strongest, an ancient, crumbling mountain range. Beneath the jagged peaks, they found an opening in the rock, a cavern hidden beneath the surface. The walls were lined with glowing veins, pulsing in rhythm with the distant thrum of the planet itself. Something was alive here, but it wasn't in the form they expected. It was as though the planet's very geology was interacting with the stardust that had bombarded it for millennia. As the team ventured deeper into the cavern, they stumbled upon something extraordinary. A massive crystalline structure embedded deep within the rock. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, its surface etched with intricate, foreign symbols. The energy emanating from the artifact was palpable. The stardust particles swirling around the cavern seemed drawn to it, converging upon it with a force that made Kale's skin tingle. "This is it," Dr. Kalen breathed, stepping forward. "This artifact, it must be the key. It's drawing the stardust in, guiding it somehow." Kale carefully approached the artifact. The hum of energy was deafening now, filling the cavern with a strange resonance. Without thinking, he placed his hand on the surface of the crystal. The moment his fingers touched it, a surge of energy coursed through him, and the ground beneath him began to tremble. The stardust in the air reacted, swirling in a violent storm as the artifact hummed louder, responding to Kale's touch. And then, in an instant, everything stopped. The tremors subsided. The stardust particles that had been swirling around them settled into the ground. And as the dust settled, Kale saw something remarkable. The ground beneath their feet was shifting, not in a destructive way, but in a way that felt like something had been awakened. The artifact had activated the planet's dormant magnetic core. The planet's core had been inactive for centuries, perhaps longer, but now it was coming to life. Slowly, as the magnetic energy surged, the planet's atmosphere began to stabilize. The weak magnetic field that had once been absent was now growing stronger, protecting the planet from the destructive forces of stardust. It was as though the very heart of Talaris had been reignited, and in doing so, the planet itself was reborn. "What just happened?" Lieutenant Era asked, her voice filled with astonishment. "The artifact," Kale whispered, his eyes wide with realization. "It didn't just interact with the stardust. It reawakened the planet's magnetic core. The stardust wasn't just destroying the planet. It was also priming it for rebirth. Now, the magnetic field is protecting the atmosphere, and the planet is beginning to regenerate." Dr. Kalen stepped forward, kneeling beside a patch of soil that had just begun to shift. Tiny specks of new life were emerging from the surface, forming in patterns that resembled the earliest forms of life. The stardust, once a destructive force, was now the catalyst for Talaris' resurrection. This is incredible," Kalen said in awe. "The stardust didn't destroy the planet after all. It was the very thing that made this possible." Kale nodded, a sense of wonder flooding him. The balance between life and death, creation and destruction. It's not as simple as we thought. The stardust may have brought Talaris to the brink of destruction, but it also gave the planet the chance to be reborn. As the team watched, the planet's surface began to stir with new energy. Vegetation started to grow, slowly at first, but rapidly gaining strength. The once dead atmosphere thickened, and patches of clouds formed, signaling the beginning of a new, thriving world. "We've just witnessed the beginning of a new cycle of life," Kale said, his voice filled with awe. "Talaris isn't dead. It's alive again." The Astronexus crew stood in silence, watching the miracle unfold. The stardust had not destroyed the planet. It had given it the tools to rebuild. The interaction with the artifact had jump-started the planet's magnetic core, giving it the protection it needed to survive. Talaris, once a lifeless rock, had been reborn, and the potential for life to flourish was limitless. As Kale and his crew left Talaris, they did so with a sense of triumph. They hadn't come to watch a planet die. They had come to witness its rebirth. The Astronexus would continue its journey, but Talaris would remain in their hearts, a testament to the power of creation hidden in the most unlikely of places. The Starborn Chronicles. It seemed, were just beginning.